Every story has an ending. Does our quest to play the top 100 courses in 10 years have a good ending? I'm Nish, and I'm here to guide you through this golfing journey. This is the Top 110 Golf Podcast. Bonus episode, Golf in Japan. Now, I've always been fascinated by golfing culture in other countries, and I've already covered a little bit of the States. I've already covered in a fantastic episode with a friend of mine, Harbs, from Harbs 7 Golf. We covered Dubai, and it was really interesting to understand how golf works in Dubai. But the one place that's felt the most otherworldly has, for me, been Japan. I've been fascinated by Japanese culture for many, many years, having studied a couple of years of Japanese at university. And this is a chance. I reached out through Instagram to a company called Golf in Japan, who run tours for foreigners basically to come into Japan, play golf there, and experience the golfing culture. And they were absolutely brilliant. They've got a podcast themselves. They've got a YouTube channel themselves, and we'll pop all the links in our descriptions. Go check them out. They're absolutely brilliant. And just seem like really, really nice guys. And I'm pleased to say that we've got somebody from Golf in Japan on with us today who's going to explain to us what golf is like, and is everything that I'm seeing on Instagram, is that the reality? Is that how it all works? Because it looks so formal, it looks like such a nice long day out playing golf. I don't know how I would get it to slide past the family, but if that's the way it's done, that's the way it's done. So I'm interested to find out. So this is Kieron from Golf in Japan. Hello, Kieron.
Hello, Nish. How are you? Is it Nish or Niche?
It's Nish,
Nish.
like fish but a bit fatter.
Nice to meet you anyway.
Very nice to meet you, Kieran. So tell me, you guys are from a website, a business, you've got a podcast, and you've got a YouTube channel. It's called Golf in Japan.
Yep.
So tell me a little bit about yourselves and how did you start? What's the business about?
I suppose firstly I came over in 2004 and I was working in media here. And I suppose one thing led to another. I'll cut short a decade of just, doing random stuff in Tokyo, but set up a magazine, a print magazine in around 2010. And that was a bilingual golf magazine. So it was called Air Golf. Print was still a thing back then, and then we that evolved into more or less online, and golf tourism at that time wasn't really happening. I suppose the misconception was that it was expensive, it was on member only courses, all of that kind of thing. But what had happened was the bubble in the Japanese economy had burst in the 90s, the late 90s, and then they had no choice but to let um, any golfer play the golf course, not just members. And so started off thinking, okay, well, Japan is such a great place to play golf. Um, I could be wrong on this, but I think there's more golf courses in Japan than Ireland, England, Scotland, Wales, and France combined. So
Are you
we've
kidding?
about 2,300.
Oh, I did not expect you to say that.
So there's a fair few. So, and you could spend your lifetime just trying to play the courses, in and around Tokyo. So yeah, an incredible place to play golf. And I was working in media, and I decided in 2019, when I golf in Japan was started by someone else, and then he decided to retire and move back to Europe, and I took it over. And there was all inquiries coming in on it saying, I want to play golf. And it just happened that the Rugby World Cup was coming up,
Yeah.
and there was loads of guys coming over. I'm here for 3 matches, but there's 3 days in between the matches. I want to play golf, so I started setting up golf for them. And the website had all the golf courses in Japan, and so through that I was getting the inquiries. So then 2019 decided to quit my job. I was working for a media company here called Fuji Sankei, which is one of the biggest media companies in probably in the world, certainly in Asia. and set up my own company. And then 2020, that didn't go so well. Inbound tourism to Japan wasn't so good.
Yeah.
And suppose one of my golf buddies, Damon, you probably seen on their podcast, he kind of said, like, look, let's get it back going up. And he decided to partner in the business. And so, yeah, we've been doing it since, I guess, 2020, the end of 2022. And it's gone from strength to strength now. We have a couple of staff. We do a lot of stuff, but I suppose the inbound bookings is the main. So we're helping. We introduce the golf courses and Japanese golf culture to foreigners, and they come over and they book rounds through us. We have a rental club business with Titleist, and we work with a couple of other golf brands here, mostly groups of golf courses to promote them and get foreigners playing. Hasn't been so much from the UK. I would say, majority now is Australians, Americans, Singaporeans, South Korean. That's the majority. We don't. I think it's a bit far for people in Europe. Although we do, it's starting to get a little bit more popular. Japan is right now. It's so cheap to come. The yen is unbelievably weak. So it's very, very cheap to come here and to play golf. And actually, recently, what we're seeing is everyone's coming here and getting fit for, Mizuno's or Titleist, whatever, and getting the tax free. And so that's another big part of our business now. We're arranging fittings. So it's kind of on sale right now. Hopefully, it lasts, but we'll see what happens with the inflation rates and so on. But so far, it's looking really good. So year on year, up about 400%.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's been really good. And then we started doing the podcast. I used to do a podcast years ago for my old company, and it's just as you know yourself, just a bit of fun, and it adds to it. And I think it legitimizes our business a bit because when you're just emailing someone through some dodgy website that you found, and then they're like, "Am I really going to pay a deposit to these guys?"
Yeah.
Then they can kind of see our faces, and they're dealing with us. They're dealing with me, or they're dealing with Damon, or Ryan, or
Yeah.
Hiroko, or Marco, or one of our team, so they can kind of see who we are. So that's been good for that. Let people know we're human.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that makes a big difference, doesn't it? I think it's interesting you're saying about less European uptake in your service, and I suppose I always do my sort of prep for the podcast by sending out some questions that I've sent out. You probably read them and gone, does this guy know nothing about, about golf in Japan? I suppose there is a bit of a
No, you're pretty spot on, actually.
yeah. I spoke to a few people about the podcast, and they were like about this episode particularly, and I was like, I'm really excited about it because it feels like an out there world. Like I've seen so much on Instagram. I mean, obviously I follow you guys, and that's why I reached out. But I looked at a lot of videos and things on Instagram, and it's like, wow, what a different way to approach your round of golf. I'm sort of like playing for 4 hours, and it's bookended by half an hour on each side, which is getting there, getting a little bit warm. I finish. I might have a fresh orange and lemonade, and then I'm off home. And that's my golf done.
Yeah. Well, I shouldn't say it depends where you're living or where you're coming from, where you're playing golf in Japan. But I'll give you an idea of the differences between, say, playing over there and playing here if you live in Tokyo, right? People always say, I want to play golf in Tokyo. There's about 5 or 6 full 18-hole golf courses in Tokyo, and they're all super, super private, apart from one. That's very hard to get onto. Um, and so when you talk about golf in Tokyo, you're actually talking about golf in the neighboring counties or prefectures, right? So you've got Chiba, which is on the coast. You've got Tochigi or Ibaraki, which is up north, or Gunma, a little bit more to the left. Then you've got Kanagawa and Shizuoka, where Fuji is on that side. And so they all, you can play in any one of them. And I suppose most golfers would think, okay, upwards of say 2 hours, traveling like by car to from their house to the golf course is acceptable. Of course, you want to play within an hour, say, but you have to allow for traffic. There could be an accident on the expressway, something like that. Now, most golf courses here will pick you up by train. So if you go to the local train station, they run a shuttle. Nearly all golf courses do that. So trains here are really good. But
Wow.
and we do have this thing called a tacky bin where you can ship your clubs, and so it costs about 3,000 yen, say about 20 quid, and they'll be there in 2 days waiting for you. And the golf course is all set up for that, so you just come and they're around the back beside the caddy master's office waiting for you. So you don't have to lug them on the train. Anyway, so say you drive, so you go out, say you allow an hour and a half, 2 hours for driving, and you want to get there a little bit early, half an hour to warm up. So you might start, maybe you leave the house at 6 for 9 a.m. tea time. Hopefully you arrive about 8 or before. You might have something to eat, you might hit a few balls. Then you wait for your tea time. There's a whole, most golf courses have a massive, big clubhouse. So you come in, you check in, you've got a locker, you go and you drop off your stuff at your locker. If it's a very posh golf course, you might have to wear a blazer, but if it's in the summer and it's really hot, you can just come ready to play, kind of thing. Um, no jeans, that kind of stuff. It's just like you wear golf shorts or whatever. Um, then you go out, and usually nowadays mostly self play, which means no caddy. So you'll have a golf. Everyone plays with golf carts here because usually you're playing. It's a very mountainous country, a lot of up and downs between the intervals. Some you can walk the course, but not many.
Yeah.
But they do have remote controls on the golf carts, which you've probably seen everyone posting about. So the,
Yeah.
the golf cart has a kind of a magnet on the bumper, and it follows this track around. And then, so you can
Wow.
get off, walk the course if you want, and you have a clicker, like a remote control for the golf cart. It stops wherever you want on the cart path. Yeah, it's supposed to be 2.5 hours for 9 holes. That would be a kind of a decent pace. But if you're playing on a Saturday, or if the weather's really nice, cherry blossoms are out, whatever it is, could take a little bit longer because a lot of old people play golf here. So let's say 2.5 hours, three. Then you go in and you have your lunch, and that's always an hour. So the golf courses here are set up for
It's this lunch thing that's piqued my interest. You probably
that.
probably appreciate it. I'm a fuller seated gentleman, so anything food related is good for me.
Yeah,
But
man.
yeah, you're not stopping for the sausage roll.
No, there's not. Now there's one or two courses, Koshigaya. There's one that's like an American course, and it's through playing, and there's a little caravan set up on the turn, and you can buy a hot dog and a beer. That's only one place in Japan out of the 2,300. The rest is you go in, you'll go in, you'll obviously you'll go to the restaurant, which is like a full big restaurant, usually overlooking the course. It's really beautiful, and then everybody will usually smash a beer, a nice draft beer, and have something like soba or like sort of noodles, or actually they might have about most between 10 and 20 different food items, like a kind of a set. So you might get, say,
Wow.
noodles, and then say like a pork cutlet, and then you'd have that with a beer. Very tasty stuff, very good. Um, then you'll probably drink too much. You go back out on the course, play another 2.5 hours, maybe 3 hours. You come back in and you go into the locker room, and then usually you bring a change. And what you'll do is they'll have an onsen or a hot bath at least. So you go in, you get showered, washed, you get into your onsen, you'll relax, and you get changed again in the locker room. You go out, you pay, and then off you go home. And hopefully the traffic hasn't, if you get out before 3 o'clock, you're doing well. So yeah, it wouldn't be surprised if you get home 7 or 8 o'clock. Now I remember I left at 6, so that was a 13-hour day playing golf.
Wow. Wow.
So it's a long
Yeah.
day. Sorry, that was a long explanation.
To be honest, that it was interesting to because you've got this whole Instagram versus reality thing going on, haven't you? And you can see very selected portions of golf, and obviously somebody could show you that experience in the UK very easily, but it's just not the norm. Most people do not experience and play golf that way. They'll do what I do, and you're phoning your mates at 5 minutes to tea time, like he's still coming, or that kind of thing. Um,
Hmm.
I love that. I mean, for a bit of background for everyone, I did 2 years of studying Japanese at university as part of my degree, and the whole formality of Japanese culture, because you don't just learn about the language. I really cannot speak any language completely. I've drunk it all away. But the formality of Japanese culture, I love that. I love that whole kind of. You're not just gonna finish and just get changed. Oh no 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 no. You're gonna have a nice hot bath. If you're gonna get changed, you're gonna do it properly. If you're gonna turn up, your clubs are gonna be here ready for you. That's all part of the experience. I mean, is that obviously that's you've got 2,300, 400 golf courses. Percentage wise, is that quite a common
Yeah,
experience, or is that right? Okay,
that's the common experience. You don't have to have a bath. Like some guy, like if you teed off late or it's running late and you want to get back, you'll sometimes you'll just you'll grab your stuff out of your locker, you pay, and off you go, jump in the car and you go. But for our clients, they want to have the full experience, so that's what they'll do. They'll enjoy it. They'll have the lunch, then they'll go and have the bath afterwards, and they might have a few beers on the Shinkansen on the way back as well, and have their ekiben, their station bento box, which is ekiben, and you have that on the train with a few beers coming back, and your clubs are being shipped, so you don't drag them.
so I mean, how uncouth you got to take your own clubs with you. I love
I always
that.
drive and
That's
take my old clubs, so but yeah, no, we it's amazing, and I love we have this new service where we call it companion golf, which probably sounds a bit ropey, but um, a lot of people are just too nervous to take a train or they don't want the expense of taking a taxi, which is quite expensive. So we'll pick them up at the hotel. We'll bring the Titleist rentals that we have. So we've brand new GT, everything, Scotty Camerons.
amazing.
Every time a club comes up, we replace every club that we have. So we'll bring them out to, we bring them out. Mount Fuji is probably one of the most popular. And they just, you're playing golf and it's just this massive volcano covered in snow in front of you. Um, oh, it's a bit of an earthquake just as I'm
What?
talking to you.
Just then?
Just a little one, yeah. Just a little shudder.
Are you kidding?
No, it's okay. It's gone now. If it was a big one, there's an alarm that the government put out, so my phone would be going whoop, whoop, if there was a big one. But you get little ones,
Wow.
you get that's where we have onsen here, that's the good part. But the bad part is like you're on like I think there's so the earth is floating on plates, right? And there's three of
Yeah.
them meeting in Japan. Pretty much,
Right.
it's like a peace sign, right? So it's like that, and then it's like that, and right where they intersect is Mount Fuji. Yeah, it's supposed to erupt soon. And when it erupts, it just completely destroys, a
Yeah.
good swath, a couple of 100 kilometers all around it. So a lot of people live there. So we're not looking forward to that one.
Is that something that's due? Is it?
Yeah. So they say. I think the last time they erupted was the 18 something. There's golf. There are golf courses. There are volcanoes that do erupt all the time. But the big earthquakes are the scariest, man. I
Mm,
was here for the one in 2011, and that was nuts. All the golf courses shut down. Yeah, I was actually on a golf course when that happened, and it was nuts.
yeah, but that was a bit hairy, wasn't it? Yeah. I mean, yeah. Sorry, that's it. Understatement. Hairy. We should add behind you. You've got the Tokyo skyline.
Yeah,
So
so we're in we're right in a place called Atago.
I really want to get there now. So
You should come;
jealous.
it's fun. No, it's probably one of the best places to play golf in the world. Um,
So
I mean,
obviously, Tokyo is like one of the most densely populated cities in the world. And you mentioned before there are five clubs, I think, and four of them are really exclusive. The other one's difficult to get onto. How does somebody in Tokyo get their golf fix?
um, well, there's a lot of driving ranges, so you can hit a few balls. The simulators, there's golf bars and that kind of thing. But really, I would say most people will travel for golf. Pretty much
Mm,
Saturdays and Sundays, everyone gets out of Tokyo and does it midweek if you can, of course. That's the best time. Um, but it's hard. You've got to be a dedicated golfer to really golf here. Back home, I'm from Dublin. In case you haven't guessed that, you could literally throw your clubs in the boot and be at the golf course in 10 minutes and
yeah,
play a casual round. Just meet up with anyone. Here they don't allow single players, so minimum two
right.
people. Um, so that's been the challenge too, because a lot of people come here in business and they'll say, "Oh, I'd love to play a game of golf," and that's why we started bringing people out or teaming them up together, and
Yeah,
we'll book a foursome. But yeah, but the good thing is transportation is really good here. So you can take a train almost anywhere. It's just an amazing amount of trains. Um, and you could get to pretty much any golf course, would say, in the Tokyo region for in about an hour and a half. So you just take a
Oh,
train,
wow. Okay.
yeah, and
Fantastic.
they'll pick you up. All golf courses will pick you up from the station. There might
Yeah.
be a shuttle bus like we're there, but they're going backwards and forwards from the station all morning.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I think I'd much rather travel by train. It means you can have a beer afterwards, doesn't it?
Yeah, so it's always one unlucky sod who doesn't get to partake. But saying that,
So,
like in Japan, yeah, it's pretty much zero tolerance for drinking here, and I don't do it
yeah.
myself. But you'll see guys have a beer in the morning or a beer at lunch. The thing in Japan, you don't realize how much they drink. So they will, you see all the old boys come in the mornings, and they'll be getting their maybe their chew higher, their shochu, their whiskey. And they'll have a few in the clubhouse before they head off. And then
Wowza.
the cool thing on the golf course is in the front line and the back line on every golf course there's a tea house, and usually they'll sell drinks. So some of the popular drinks is one called a Del Cup, which is like a cinnamon whiskey. Come and you just rip the top off, and it's like a perfect shot glass of cinnamon whiskey. That's about 18%. And if it's cold, because you get the Four Seasons here, so if it's cold, that's the drink of choice over here.
Fantastic. I love that. So does the dearth of uh, golf courses, and I'm sorry, not golf courses, that's not right because there's thousands, but the difficulty in getting out to play, do you think that impacts the uptake of golf in Japan?
Good question. I would say no. So there's been, if I could give you a kind of a historical rundown of golf in Japan, it came over probably around 1910, 1915, or just after the First World War, 1917, 18. And the first few golf courses were built by, you have Allison, sorry, it was a Scottish man who came over, and he was he had done Tokyo Golf Club and Kowana, which are both, I believe, top 100 in the world. And it was kind of slow to take up, but then it was kind of a very elitist thing. Most people were just, especially, and then after the war, with the war, people were too busy rebuilding. But then Japan in the 60s really, really found its own in terms of, it was a leader in technology industry. Everyone was working hard, a lot of money in the country, and people needed a way to spend it. And then I would say within the space of 30 years, there was probably over 1,500 golf courses constructed. Really, the 70s, 80s, and 90s is when the Japanese bubble, the economy was really, really good. They were the biggest economy in the world next to the US. They were buying all the assets in America, and they wanted to have a rich lifestyle. And so everybody was becoming members of all these golf courses. Sometimes you had 5, 6, 7 memberships. I'd say the average, if I was in the 80s and the 90s, I'd say the average was about 30 to 50 million yen, could be more, which is probably 40 or 50 grand. And then end of the 90s, bubble burst. So all these private clubs, immediately all their members wanted to cash out, get the memberships back. Government had to step in because the amount of tax that they were earning was just unbelievable. They said they bailed the golf course out. They said you don't have to pay back the membership. So that saved the golf industry at that time. And so at that, a lot of people loved it. I'd say at that time there was probably close to 8 or 9 million golfers in Japan. And so the golf courses survived, but then, people didn't have as much money, the economy was bad, that kind of thing. So then what happened was all of these private, they're not even though they had members, they were still private clubs, right? So they weren't owned by the members, they're owned by private companies. You were just paying to be allowed to play there. You'd still have to pay every time you played as well, but it'd be less than a visitor. So then what they did was they opened up golf courses to all, to make up the numbers. And so you don't have to be a member anymore to play these golf courses. Some you do, some are still very close to Tokyo, so they're still holding on to that very private, like
Hmm.
Kasumigaseki, where the Olympics were. I think they're going back to not let women play on the weekends because they had to let them during the Olympics, but then they went back, I think. So they're very old school, but if
Yeah.
you drive out an hour, no way you play any golf course. And so there was a couple of online tea time companies got established. The biggest being Rakuten, where people could earn points for their credit cards and all sorts of stuff playing golf, and people would review, and they had a whole booking platform. And this is way, way, way before anyone else in the world was doing online booking platforms. The only way you could get a
Mm.
tea time, usually in Ireland, say, was to call up or fax.
Yeah, ring the pro.
So they were well ahead of it there. So then that happened, and that kind of revitalized the golf industry a bit. Everyone started playing, new people were coming to the game, and then I think it was dwindling another bit. Young people weren't really into it because there was one thing called set day golf where you had to go play with your boss or your clients. You'd always let them win, and it was because Japanese are very, not that they're two faced, but they're very reserved around someone who's senior in age or senior in
Yeah,
position. And if you really want to get to know someone, play 18 holes, right? Because you'll see them go through the whole spectrum of emotions. And so that was the way you would see if your business partner, how they react under pressure or, are they a nice guy and so on and so forth. So there was this thing called set day golf. And that kind of disappeared. And then COVID happened. And then there was nothing you could do. Lockdown over here was massively strict. Like you couldn't do anything. And so all the young people started playing golf. So then there was this mad resurgence in golf 2021, 2022. They said about 800,000 young people came to the sport during COVID, maybe the same in other places as well. And then
yeah,
it was more
absolutely.
cool. It was the hoodies, the Melbourne crew, bringing a little bit more of a fresh way of playing golf. Depending on what course you're playing in, you get young people, especially actually ladies really came to play golf because they love the fashion and they love the Instagram. So girls in their late teens, in the 20s, like the female professional game is way bigger than the males here,
Is it interesting?
much bigger. Yeah. So if I go back to the bubble, so the purses here for professional tournaments were bigger than America at the time because there was loads of money and loads of sponsors who, you know, they Tiger was killing it over here.
Are you getting
So
your?
can you hear the ambulance going by?
Do you know what? You scared me with the whole. I'll get an alert on my phone before. I thought that's what was happening there.
No, you'll know that one. That's a scary one.
Are there any? Obviously, you said there's some. The uptake in golf with younger people is has really come to the fore. Headline grabber, and apologies, this has a male slant. I know the female game is bigger in Japan, but obviously we know about Hideki. So, what are there any really good up and coming young Japanese golfers that we should all think
Yeah,
about placing a little bet on?
Ikeda. Let me think. We always talking about it on the golf podcast. So we have Pro Joe, who's an Australian PGA professional here. He always does he'll always tell you, he always follows the ladies golf, everything here. And there's a girl called Takeda. She's not she was a rookie last year, and this year she won, I believe, 10 times.
Wow.
Really hard fields, like and everyone was talking about what like if you put that in the US perspective, that like Nelly Korda won I think 9 times or something. Like she won 10 times, and she won there's one event that's co-sanctioned by the LPGA, and she won that as well. So now she's got a card for the LPGA. So her name is Ryo Takeda. So Ryo, like same as Ryo Ishikawa, it's male or female, or YO. So that's one to watch. She's an
Yeah.
absolute. She's just a tiny little baby face assassin. Great game, unbelievable game. There's a lot of professional golfers here. I mean, Hitsatsune. So there's a couple of players who are on the European tour now. So that's their way to get into the PGA Tour. If you're male, especially, you can't just get on. But the women can get on. But the
Right.
male tour is it's regarded quite low in terms of world ranking points. So you gotta do top three here, then you get onto the European Tour. I think if you win two or more times over there, or maybe get in the top 30 or top 20, you can get onto the PGA Tour.
Why do you think that is? Because I'll tell you my sort of perception just from our discussion really, and that's all it's based on. We've got numerous golf courses. They're going to be in testing terrain because it is a hilly country. There's going to be testing weather conditions. So you've got to be a good all-round golfist to be able to play golf in Japan. Why are they not ranking Japanese golfers as highly in ranking points then? Is it just a
They don't
prestige thing,
travel
do
as
you
well.
think?
I mean,
Right. Okay.
Hideki Matsuyama is an exception. He's kind of I don't want to talk crap about Hideki because I've met him and he's a lovely chap. He actually speaks a bit of English. He's really nice. But he just has this. he's not affected by anything around him. Like he just does not give a fig about what's going on, and he will focus and grind and practice like nobody else. Whereas anybody else who gets a little bit of fame, a little bit of notoriety, they tend to, get affected by that. They can't practice as well. They
Oh,
can't, and certainly the
yeah.
pressure. I don't know if you've ever seen Hideki Matsuyama play in a tournament. That he has his own camera crew behind him, so the Japanese media will send maybe two camera crews behind him, so they don't miss his shot because the Japanese public would not allow. Because the way they'll flip around to another golf course and you'll miss it, you'll miss a shot.
Yeah.
They don't care about anybody else and the Japanese coverage, which is really frustrating for me to watch it. But they will, like when it goes to commercial or whatever, they have their own camera crew doing Hideki Matsuyama.
Wow.
So the pressure that must come with that. So when they have a really you get your own camera crews following you around. The Japanese love sport. They
Mm.
love success. They get a lot of gold medals in the Olympics. They invest a lot into their youth programs, but it somehow doesn't translate into overseas. They don't generally speak good English. They don't generally like other foods other than Japanese because the food is so good here and so poor when you go overseas comparatively that they tend to because it's all about diet and feeling comfortable and but he's an exception I feel and there's been great players who've gone over and not really a couple that have gone, I suppose, was starting with Aoki. He was the first to win PGA Tour, won with that amazing shot in Saudi Open where he hold one from the rough to win. Ai Miyazato, she was world number one at one stage. So before, with the exception of those, Jumbo's Oseki was prolific. I think he won 80 times in Japan, but never overseas. And he was just dominating everything here, just couldn't translate. Going over playing different grass, they play Korai here with bent greens and all the different types of grass. They didn't like it, so it's hard to adapt your game. Yeah, I think this girl Takeda, she could be the one to watch. I think Ikeda is the guy I mentioned. He's in Europe now. He won the money list in the men's tour here in his rookie year, and they were all fighting with him. He was the world amateur champion. You might remember, as Hideki was. He'd won the world amateur and got actually offered to go and play straight on the PGA Tour, and he turned it down because he wanted to play. He wanted to play Augusta as an amateur, and you wouldn't get the
Right.
invite. He didn't know if he'd ever get the chance to play again. So he went, and then he won the low amateur at the Masters. Then he went to college in Fukushima, which was very badly affected by the earthquake, and he was helping
Yeah.
them. And that's the kind of guy he is. Sorry, what went on about Hideki? Yeah, so Hideki was low amateur. Ikeda's the guy.
He's the guy.
He's another guy. Hitsatsune is another guy. They're both European tours, so we'll see how they go. They just don't have that same thing that Hideki has. They're superstars here. They're under lots of pressure. They're already They're already making millions. As I said, Ikeda was the guy that they were all fighting over when he was the amateur, and I think TaylorMade signed them for like $2 or $3 million.
Wow. Okay. Where's your incentive to go out and, like I say, Hideki's he likes the grind and he wants to do that. Whereas if you already made it, I mean, as I sort of mentioned before, I'm of Indian heritage and cricket's massive in India. And with this IPL now, you've got
Yeah,
players in there who just play 20 over cricket, and they're getting these massive sponsorship deals, but they haven't. All they're there for just crash bang wallop and that's it. There's no working on the technique. There's no grind. There's no let's become a better cricketer.
a special kind of person that wants to do that, like Tiger was like
Yeah,
when, the famous story about John Daly asked him for a drink and all the rest of it. And he's like, no, I'm going to do my 10K run and then I'm going to the gym. And I think Hideki was like that. Like he could have become professional and he could have gone for all of that. And he wanted to play in the Masters as an amateur because that was his chance to fulfill a dream. And he only went. I remember he first returned down to go on the PGA Tour because he wanted to stay in Japan because of what happened in Fukushima, where he's from Ehime, but he went to college up there, and they were saying no, you should go because people want inspiration to see you perform well over there. And then he went out and look, I think he's won 11 times now, including the Masters. So amazing
it's
for
funny.
him.
And I remember there was this iconic shot, wasn't there, when he'd won the Masters and he sort of took his hat off, didn't he, and bowed to the course, and it was wonderful. That
That was the
was the
caddy.
caddy. That was it. It was the caddy. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
wonderful. That
yeah. I mean, that was just because it's on a early on a Monday morning, because it's Sunday there, right? And it's Monday morning here. So 7 a.m. everyone's watching Japanese TV. It's on Japanese TV. And I think it got the highest ever rating of any golf ever in Japan. And people were just freaking out about it. And I remember we got these T-shirts made up, and it was like a still of that moment where he's holding the flag and he bows to the course, and it was kind of, it was stylized a bit to make it look like a cartoon, and everyone had that T-shirt,
Amazing.
of him bowing to the course. It was
I'll
magic.
tell you what I loved about that was going to get a bit deep and philosophical here, but society's moving on into this instant gratification. You're out there to get whatever you want, and those basic tenets, I think, sometimes of good manners, politeness, respect, they're disappearing. But I think that's very much alive in Japan and Japanese culture.
It is. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's mad stuff that happened here, but nothing compared to what we see in other countries. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's a great place for families, and you come here and you'll be on the train in the morning and you'll see just these tiny little 4-year-olds everywhere. They're just going to school by themselves. Nobody touches them. Nobody bothers them. Nobody disrespects each other. Now you do get the occasional weirdo and all the rest of it, but it's such a safe country. I could never imagine raising my children anywhere else, because I want them to be able to go cycle the bike and meet the mates somewhere else, and do those things safely, and they really can in Japan.
Yeah, it's amazing. Absolutely amazing. Kieran, thank you so much for your time today.
No, no
I'm
worries.
glad you sort of uh, verified my opinions of Japanese golf. Like, I was expecting it to be amazing, and you painted a great picture of it.
Look, it's probably a bit of a holy grail kind of place. It's a long place. It's a long way from the UK. I mean, I do it twice a year from going home and visiting home, and it's hard to get here, and the flights are expensive, different time zone and whatever. But if you're ever going to go to Japan, now's the time, because, as I said, it's just so much cheaper
Yeah,
here.
yeah,
Like, I just paid less than £1 for a 7% Chuhai. I have to give a shameless plug to our service. So
yeah, please do.
golf-in-japan.com. Please check us out. Send us a message. Team would love to hear from you. We'll take care of you when you come over.
Now, I can't leave you without asking one more question. You're from Dublin, and there are some unbelievable golf courses on your Fair Isle. Um, what's been the best one that you've ever played?
That I've ever played. Because I did most of my golf here, because when I was a kid, I played golf, and then I stopped for many years because I was more interested in playing guitar and chasing girls. But I would say Old Head. Old Head's cool. Connemara. Connemara is just mega. Um, Now, saying that, I'd love you know, to play some of the more posher golf courses, but they're just too expensive and hard to get tee time. But I think Connemara is good. Around the Dublin area, Portmarnock, it is a members course, but if you can get in there, that's an amazing place. K Club,
Mhm.
if you can afford it. Port Rush, obviously, never played it actually, but Port Rush probably got to be on everyone's bucket list. Yeah, Old Head, I'd say, in Cork.
I didn't know much about Old Head, but it's come up a few times in the last maybe 3 or 4 weeks because we're looking at for 2026 doing an Irish trip to go play 4 or 5 of the top 100 courses. And a lot of people mention Old Head, so it's a fantastic golf course.
It's just an amazing piece of piece of land that they actually got a chance to do. I think they only developed it probably in the early 2000s, but so it's just like this. It is what it is. It's a headland jutting out on a very high cliff, and it just goes, and just enough for two fairways side by side going out. You got this castle gate, old really old, like, castle gate there, and you've got a lighthouse at the end. And if the weather behaves, I don't think there's a better view in golf. It's
Wow.
just spectacular, and the wind and everything. It's just brilliant.
Wow. I cannot wait. But that's been the beauty of what we're doing. It's just, it almost doesn't matter how you play. It's just, you look at it and you go, this is a feast for the eyes. It's wonderful.
You never asked me which golf course in Japan is the
Actually,
best.
which is the best one in Japan? Good, good. Kieran, I'll edit that out so it makes it sound like I asked you the question. So we'll do it that way.
Koana, is probably, I think it is a world top 50. I think it's like 46 or 48. I could be wrong on that. Koana is where Marilyn Monroe and Joe DiMaggio went on their honeymoon. It's owned by Prince Hotels. You have to stay to play the Fuji course. It has two courses there.
Oh,
It's kind of like Pebble Beach. It's right on the sea. Beautiful, nice weather day. It's just fantastic place to play. That's good. Personal favorite. I like Kasunagaseki, where I was telling you they had the Olympics. Just the attention to detail and a uniquely Japanese design.
right.
It's not trying to mimic anything Parkland or links from Europe or America. It's just Japanese. So I really like that one. But there's so many really, really good golf courses around. Um, as I said, I mean, just within driving distance, you've probably 1,000 around Tokyo.
It's
So
bonkers that.
yeah, I haven't played them all yet. So far, it's probably Casino Gaseki.
Somebody followed me on Instagram, and I've been chatting to them. They were very kind to invite us up to Carnoustie, but they're trying to play all golf courses in Scotland, and I think that's like 600 odd, which that blew my mind. But 2,400, 1,000 just around Tokyo, and then 2,400 in the whole country is mind blowing.
I think I've played close to 200 now,
Wow!
maybe a bit more. Yeah,
So you made a very very small dent.
I'm sure I heard that there was one guy who's played every golf course in Japan.
Oh my goodness,
He sold his company. He sold his company's IT start when he was in his 20s, and he's now in his 60s, and he just plays golf three, four
you'd have
times a
to,
week, and he's just played and played and played and
yeah.
played. You think about it, in the north, you've got Hokkaido, right, which is fucking, like in the winter, it's just completely covered in snow. Amazing skiing, by the way, here. Then you've got Okinawa all the way in the south, which is tropical. God knows how many islands. There's probably as many islands here as there are golf courses, which is a lot.
I mean, if you can get your fame and fortune, if you can play that variety of golf courses, if you can become a minor celebrity from doing it, why would you go and play your golf anywhere else? Just stay where you are.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is a very domestic place, right? They have everything they need right here. They don't really need
Yeah,
anything
yeah,
from overseas, including sport, entertainment, all the rest of it.
yeah. Why take your chances with a dodgy halfway hut that's going to serve you Bovril? Like, there's no point. Don't see the need to do that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Look at it this way. I wouldn't eat a raw egg anywhere else only Japan.
yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Kieran, thank you for your time today. That's been absolutely
No
wonderful.
problem,
And,
Nish.
and look, everyone, please go and check these guys out. I'm going to put all the links up on our video and our podcast
Oh, thanks so
description.
much, mate. Appreciate that.
But I will look forward to contacting you when I've twisted my wife's arm a little bit to take everyone out to Japan.
Do it, mate. Okay, look forward to seeing you then.
Brilliant. Thanks, Kieran. Well, everyone, that was Kieran from Golf in Japan. What a fantastic place to play golf, Japan sounds. I'm definitely going to book a trip at some point. So keep an eye out for any content about that. But I love the way that he was describing something that feels so exclusive and feels so special, and that's just a common occurrence in Japan. How golf is experienced. So yeah, absolutely love it. And we'll obviously put a lot of content up about around this, and what a lovely chap Kieran was. Until next time on the Top 110 Golf Podcast.